Barack Obama's favorite novelist, Toni Morrison, once famously said she wanted to see a white man convicted for raping a black woman. See, in Tony's mind, there's all these white guys roaming the countryside, attacking black women, raping black women, and it's just that the cops ignore it, or the black women don't come forward to say anything about it because they're always so mild-mannered, soft-spoken, and they don't really speak up in defense of themselves, as we see on these videos all the time. So that's a fairy tale. The reality is that rape in this country is a black thing. 65% of women that go to college, black women that go to college, are raped before they get there. 90% of these rapes are never reported. Now, these stories come from these sources, these numbers come from sympathetic sources. Black women's magazines who think they're just talking amongst themselves, and they're talking about how, there's a lot of rape going on and we're not doing much about it. Huffington Post the other day wrote a story about black rape. And they said, black women, quote, black women are trained to protect the race at all costs. Melissa Harris Perry was on, when she had her show on MSNBC, she said, black women don't report rape and domestic violence because we know that white racist cops are going to be picking on our guys once they get into prison, so we don't call.
Now, so this challenge that you're laying out to me as we're talking is one that feels familiar to some Western civil rights movements as well. So I start with a little bit of trepidation in this conversation, in part because I know that some of the critiques of this is the very idea that Western press, that those who are not from these nations, who are not Muslim ourselves, who are not part of these traditions, can look at your article and say, look at how horrible those men or those societies or that religion is. And it's something, it's part of why, for example, we have an underreporting of rape and domestic violence in African American communities, because we know the violence enacted on black men by police, so we often don't call, right?
That is a lucid, intelligent, well thought out objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Overruled.
So there's an enormous amount of black rape in this country, black on black rape, black on white rape. A lot of it's not reported. But the craziest kind of rape that we come across here on this channel is black on senior rape, often black on white senior rape. Black people raping old women. Old women. Why don't we take a look at a couple that have been in the news lately? Who's this? Deonte Green, 17 years old. He pled guilty to killing a teacher, raping an 81-year-old woman. I remember this very clearly because he just walked into the teacher's house, a white guy. His wife was there, his kids were there, and he just killed the guy. Killed the teacher. Then he went, this was after raping an old woman. Let's hear the story.
Tulsa police now say they learned a hard lesson after a violent crime spree that left a man dead.
Yeah, it turns out several departments and investigators may have known the suspect already saw a spike in crime in that area. Channel 8's Kim Jackson says the suspect had a history with police. It's in tonight's top story.
Well, police say Deonte Green had been involved in various crimes around this area. And today I spoke to his mother, who told me he had a history of mental illness since he was 5. The face of 16-year-old Deonte Green, now in a mugshot, accused of killing Shane Anderson in a home invasion and of robbing an elderly couple, raping the woman, all in one day.
Well, I think he was waking up every day saying it was time to go to work, and his job was to obtain money and things and stuff.
Sergeant Dave Walker says Green had a criminal history. Detectives knew about him and a group of about 8 other individuals, all who were part of a spike in crime recently. Clues that came too late for the victims.
We have to have that information before we have a Green kill and rape. If we could have known that he was that active, and as soon as he escalates into the armed robbery part, then put the clamps on him.
It really bothers me to think that they knew about it and they didn't say anything.
Heather McQueen says her family always thinks about safety with a video recording doorbell, but she had no idea how close the crime was.
To know that there was that sort of thing, going on and not alert the neighbors in any way.
Green was recently arrested for property theft and released, given a second chance.
Sometimes we just lose the 12 to 18 and 19-year-olds that just don't know any different. And this kid knew how to steal and rob and take things to survive.
Oh, Lord save us from these sociologists pretending to be cops. Well, he's just doing it to survive. Come on, man. You know better than that. They're doing it because they like to do it. I just finished watching 17. I'm not going to inflict this on you in this video, but it's a 17-minute video from Democracy Now!, the television show, about a woman who says, yeah, we have to take the fight for criminal justice reform to the next level. We got to close down prisons, let the violent felons out, and then we got to give all the black people reparations. They spent 17 minutes talking about this. That's the level of insanity that this guy's infected with, the guy we just heard. That's the level of insanity that is allowing all of this to happen.
Vicious crime. A 78-year-old woman stabbed and beaten with a hammer inside her Henrico home.
Tonight, Crime Insider John Burkett has learned the man police say viciously attacked her has been convicted. John?
Candace Calvin White remains locked up here at Henrico Jail West with no bond. The now 19-year-old entered 2 Alford pleas during a hearing today, according to court records. That means he doesn't admit guilt, but he acknowledges there is enough evidence for conviction on aggravated malicious wounding and burglary charges. White attacked a 78-year-old Henrico woman last April. The great-grandmother in that attack survived it after being stabbed several times in the back of the head and beaten with a hammer. It was a random attack at her home on Laburnum Avenue, according to prosecutors. White piling on a grand theft auto charge as he used the victim's car to flee the scene.
Out in the Bronx, this 50-year-old dude beat and stripped an 83-year-old woman. He was about to rape her when somebody came to the door and he took off. He knocked on the door and the woman just looked through the keyhole, wasn't going to let him in, until he explained that he was an inspector with the city water department. So she let him in. He came in and beat the hell out of her. And I remember this story well as well. Just a little old 92-year-old lady living by herself down in Montgomery, Alabama way. Oh, this dude with teardrops tattooed on his face came to her door, killed her, raped her. Second verse, same as the first. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Please, sir. I want some more.
Okay, I'm going to break my promise now. What if we hear just 1 or 2 minutes from that crazy interview that I'm going to put on my podcast later on today? Just to give you an idea of the mountain of denial, deceit, and delusion out there.
So there's no path to ending mass incarceration that doesn't include addressing violence. That's partly because, as you said, more than half of people in this country are incarcerated for crimes of violence. But it's also because our national addiction to prison is based in a story about some imagined monstrous other, somebody who is not quite human the way we are, from whom we have to be protected at any cost. It's that image of somebody that has been racialized in this country since our very beginnings that animates us to choose prison over schools, prison over hospitals, prison over basic infrastructure. And until we tackle that central narrative, the possibility of actually ending mass incarceration in our lifetime won't be within reach.
Sometimes when we do stuff on this channel, most of the time it's not like we don't come at you and say, hey, this is good or bad, let me explain it to you. No, we just say, listen to this, watch this. And if you're not smart enough to figure out the unbelievable level of delusion present in what you just heard and the danger that accompanies that delusion, well, I don't know what to say to you other than you're probably really good at not making the black kids angry.